You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lonero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Hello and welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lonero, along with my co-hosts, as always, Mr. Kyle Dvorchak, Mr. Bob Harris, who we missed greatly last week. We had Bobby Gomes on. That was fun. That was lovely. It was a different vibe, but we all know each other pretty good. Mr. Harris, what is good in New Mexico tonight? How are you?
Well, I'm no Gomes, but I hope to do enough to keep the job. I don't want to lose the gig. I'm doing well. It was exciting. Well, no, it wasn't. I'm lying. It was not I thought it was not the greatest week of football, right? I mean, maybe it's because I'm spoiled because there's been so much offense this year, and perhaps I'm whining because there wasn't as much offense, or at least the guys I wanted to produce the offense did not produce as much as I wanted to produce.
Well, we're certainly spoiled by the championship games, right? You have two Hall of Famers in the NFC, and then you have two budding stars in the AFC, so you'll be spoiled this weekend.
Some excitement there. So we'll jump into this. I'll touch a little bit on some news because have been some pretty big stories in the last few days that are worth noting. First and foremost, the retirement of Phillip Rivers. We're recording this Wednesday. It happened early this morning, late last night, however you want to see it. And so the Phillip Rivers 17-year career comes to an end. He produced many yards, career 64.7% completion rate, 59,271 yards, 397 touchdowns just with the Chargers in the 16 seasons he was with the Chargers. He was serviceable enough. Finished all time 421 career touchdown passes and 63,000 yards. So great player, but I guess, Kyle, what we're interested in is what the Colts do next. This leaves an opening in their offense.
Yeah, the Colts are in a weird spot, too. I think a handful of teams are like this, where they don't really have, the draft capital to make some strident move. Their choices are wait for someone to fall to them in the draft, which is certainly possible, explore free agents, which, assuming, Dak Prescott, or I guess the Cowboys get their Dak Prescott business handled, that doesn't seem to be super on the table. I think on the off chance that, maybe teams are a little shy to pay massive hauls for someone like Watson. I would mortgage my future for Watson because he is your future. Although I don't think many teams operate that way. But name your number on first round picks into perpetuity that you trade away for Watson is my stake. So I would say they should consider that. I think maybe the most interesting option is that it seems like Carson Wentz at least has a decent chance, an unfair chance to start the start of the 2021 season. I'd be making calls for Jalen Hurts. He looked good. He was a good enough passer, an incredible runner. If he progresses as a passer, he becomes an above average, if not very good passer, and also one of the top three runners. I think that is a combination that Lamar Jackson hasn't been able to sustain, that Kyler Murray shows flashes of, that really Josh Allen's the best example we have, and he's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat as a passer. So I think any team in a position to maybe not just draft a top 5, top 10 quarterback, I'd be making Jalen Hurts calls every single day.
So, and I think that brings up a point that, we were going to get into here about Deshaun Watson, the ongoing drama. Every year it is mandatory. There has to be an ongoing drama to keep the NFL at the top of the news headlines. And Deshaun Watson will be it. Unhappy with the way the Texans are handling their business. Not a fan of owner Cal McNair. Nobody apparently is a fan of Jack Esterby. Justin, probably a good friend of his. I apologize if that's the case, from the same area, the New England area. But a little bit of a power struggle, and I kid. Justin, probably not a good friend with him, just an acquaintance who really admires him. But no, they went and they got Nick Caserio as the GM. Watson had mentioned some names he was interested in as GM. Apparently they had offered the job to Omar Khan of the Steelers. And then Esterby went to Cal McNair's and they prayed together and came up with the notion to get Nick Caserio. Now that Caserio's there, though, I think, Justin, it seems like they're at least interviewing some of the guys that Deshaun Watson had identified. certainly Eric Bieniemy being at the top of that list. They're also talking to Leslie Frazier, the Bills defensive coordinator, formerly head coach in Minnesota. So can they fix the relationship with Deshaun Watson, or should everyone just give up, move on, trade him to the Colts? No, not the Colts, or somebody, and just get this over with?
Yeah, it would seem that it would be a nightmare to see him go elsewhere because of his uber talent. But some of the wording, we can't let the inmates run the institution, somewhere along those lines. And, I watched Randy Moss speak the other night. It's true. I mean, they promised him more, being able to be involved with more of the decision making. And that's what you do. I think, they lost DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller was Will Fuller getting hurt, and he was still able to manufacture at a high level. So Deshaun Watson's an emotional guy. We've seen that on social media time and time again. I think they have to fix this, and they have to fix it now. And you're looking at an AFC South that is getting better and better. So if they want to compete, if that's their intention, we know the state of Texas is proud. They better accommodate him, and they better accommodate him really, really quick. I think it'd be interesting to see where he would go. I mean, you told me years and years ago there is a dire need in the NFL for competent quarterback play at the least. So to allow a guy like Deshaun Watson to walk out the front door because of, things that could have been buttoned up earlier is an utter embarrassment as an organization. So they better get it right, and they better get it right really, really quick.
Yeah, there are not 32 of those guys out there right now, as we see pretty much every single week in the NFL. So, Kyle, look at you. And just, to be fair, the guy who said the whole inmates run the asylum thing died. And, that might be, so this is his son now running the team. That was Rob McNair, or the elder McNair. Cal McNair now running things, obviously not doing a great job of keeping, of communicating. And he said that by his own admission. So, I don't know. My feeling is this probably gets fixed one way or the other. And by the other, I mean he probably sticks around in Houston. I don't think there's any way they trade him. I think a lot of the reporting we're hearing are agents calling big name reporters and putting out their wish list, and it's getting put out there like it's news when it's really a wish list. So, Kyle, am I wrong? What is your estimation? What is the percentage that Deshaun Watson plays for another team next year?
I'm going to say it's like 25 to 30, which is a decent chance. That's not a low odds by any means, but it does seem like there are, there's a strong argument that there are literally zero teams with the capital to make a trade for Deshaun Watson, because he is the closest thing to an untradeable asset that you could possibly imagine outside of Patrick Mahomes. Like, his combination of age and performance on a team that maybe isn't that conducive to quarterback play, it just seems like he's so greatly outperformed his situation that, 2 firsts, 3 firsts, 5 firsts, whatever. It doesn't seem like there's maybe the right answer, but there are two teams that come into the ballpark. It's really the Jets with, I believe, 4 first-round picks in this year and next year, and the Miami Dolphins with 3 picks plus a former top 5 pick.
Houston can get their pick back.
That would be so ironic. It would be incredible. I've seen the same thing about him getting somehow traded to the Chicago Bears. The levels of irony are too good to be true.
Every fan out there has a formula for how Deshaun Watson gets traded to their team. Every team that doesn't have a true franchise quarterback at the moment. So I'm kind of with you. I don't think this is likely to happen, but every year, with each passing year, more things happen that I think would never happen.
That's exactly why I have it at 20 to 30, because I said there's no way Le'Veon Bell holds out. Odell Beckham trade rumor is not possible. And I think the NFL is sort of getting more not crazier, just we're seeing more and more things that haven't happened yet. And so we have to adjust and say, I know it hasn't happened yet, but there's always a first.
I agree. I think this is where we're at, and we'll see. This will be one to watch. A couple other items that are interesting, some head coach hirings. The Jaguars get Urban Meyer as their next head coach, goes from the college ranks to the pros. We've seen that work with mixed results. Somewhere Bobby Petrino is shaking his fist at me like I'm talking about him, and I am. He was horrible. Others have fared better, obviously. The Falcons hired Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith as their next head coach. The Jets hired 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. The Chargers hired Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley to fill that role. That one a little surprising, a meteoric rise for him. Lions hired Dan Campbell today as their head coach. A new move that we saw coming. We've seen him in the past as an interim coach in Miami. He's been the assistant head coach for Sean Payton. So we'll see how some of these guys fare. That leaves two openings, you guys, Houston and the Eagles. Neither of these jobs seems very appealing, Justin. Which one would you prefer?
I would like the Philadelphia Eagles. I was trolling my friend the other day and said Adam Gase is going to be going to Philadelphia. You see that? He got all worked up. They're very passionate in Philadelphia. Eagles fans are as hard as they come. I mean, the pieces are in Philadelphia to work with.
They're not in Houston?
They're not in, well, they are in Houston.
If you can fix Deshaun Watson.
If you can fix the issue quickly with Deshaun Watson, the pieces are certainly there. Now, you're minus DeAndre Hopkins. You really don't have a clear-cut, bona fide a wide receiver one. But I think that when you look at Jalen Hurts, when you look at a running back of the caliber of Miles Sanders, and the tight ends and the wide receivers in Philadelphia is just a more passionate place to play. That's where I would want to go.
We're overlooking the elephant in the room, I think, Justin.
The 4-year elephant in the room, the mega $30+ million a year elephant.
And the one that seems to be the darling of owner Jeffrey Lurie, and even more so GM Howie Roseman, who has a big fat head of Carson Wentz hanging in his office like a shrine.
How can he start there? I mean, realistically, really, I get the money situation. It's a mess, right, financially, but realistically, week 1, 2021, Carson Wentz is going to start for the Eagles?
Yes. Why is Doug Peterson not there anymore? Because he didn't want to play Carson Wentz. I mean, I think it's pretty clear the direction this has gone. Doug Peterson was being told who he had to play, and he wasn't all that keen on it, right?
Right.
Oh, well, that's what you hear. I mean, Doug Peterson got tired of being told what to do. Also, Doug Peterson, welcome to the world the rest of us live in. But Kyle, don't you see that as the big problem for Philadelphia? I mean, at least in Houston, you would have a chance to fix the relationship or maybe get the opportunity to fix that relationship with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, there's no fixing how much money you are committed to paying Carson Wentz. No team, I think even if they trade him, they eat a decent amount of that cap. It's like a half of the dead cap hit, and no one wants to trade for him anyway. So he is stuck there. And on top of that, I think it's like you said, he's stuck there, and management wants him to be stuck there in some sense. They made their decision. So you will be, just like we saw Doug Peterson say, I would assume he said, or they came to an agreement that if we don't align on how we want this team to go forward, it's not worth it. You're not getting to make you don't really have a strong say in who your quarterback is. It seems like I don't know, is best case scenario that Wentz is bad and you're allowed to bench him, but I don't know, there's just no good outcome other than somehow Carson Wentz turns his entire career around, which that seems not incredibly likely. So either you're stuck with okay, he's bad enough that we let you play Jalen Hurts. That's still a bad situation. Or you're coerced into playing a quarterback who, even if he gets better, is probably not, I don't know, maybe he's just broken. So I kind of think the upside of going to Houston is that things return to normal. You as the coach, if you're Bieniemy, that's who he wants to coach him. So if you're Bieniemy, you probably show up and things are already smoothed over just by you existing in Houston. So I think if you can patch up the relationship, Watson is a better start to a franchise than any one of the Mahomes.
I agree with that, and obviously, if you haven't heard, Patrick Mahomes has been on the phone to Deshaun Watson, talking up Eric Bieniemy. That was a guy he wanted to get interviews. Also, if you're out there and you listen to things, the reporting is that Bieniemy is a horrible interview, right? That doesn't mean he'll be a horrible coach.
Right.
It just means he doesn't, there's a reason this guy has been through multiple cycles and has not gotten an offer as hot a candidate as he is.
Bill Belichick is too. Bill Belichick's a bad interview too, I heard.
Apparently so. He just wins once he gets the job. Exactly.
Right.
That's the thing. And so sometimes, it takes a leap of faith for an owner or a precarious situation. And maybe that's what will get Bieniemy this job, an owner who finds himself in a position with his back against the wall and without a choice. And I hate to say that it comes to that for a guy like this with the reputation he has, but clearly there's something that's kept him. I think part of that is the Chiefs' success, right? I mean, he's never available early. They're usually going deep into the playoffs. So, but also he's never been a play caller. So I don't know. We'll have to see. My guess is I'm kind of with you, Justin. I think that's a quick fix to the problem and maybe a great fix to the problem. And maybe it'll end up being greater than we know. Urban Meyer, Kyle, Is he going to be one of those coaches that comes in and is he going to be a Jimmy Johnson, or is he going to be a Bobby Petrino and leave a note in everyone's locker when he quits?
I initially thought that I was not going to like the Urban thing because I don't think, as long as he was in Ohio State, like, he always had OCs who I believe were the play callers. He's kind of a special teams guy. But then, like, I dug more into it. And at Utah, like, he kind of revolutionized, or at least added some extremely profound stuff to the spread offense as a concept. Like, he was like sort of the next wave of, like, I don't know if he technically invented RPO, but I think he did. Like, he literally even talked about how it was a mistake. They were running just like a normal running option, and a receiver thought he was running a route. And so he ran around. They're like, well, what if he actually did run the routes? Like, he very much innovated, if not invented, a lot of the concepts we have in, like, this next wave of the past 15 to 20 years of football. So as long as there is that in him, even if he wasn't calling plays most recently, like, as long as he has that creative element in him, sure, we haven't seen it recently, but we know it's there. So I'm actually probably at least on board with giving him a chance. I'm not going to say it works out, but before, like, digging into his past more, I was at least not super interested. Now I'm interested. I think there's a chance it works out particularly well, even because I believe offense is the biggest driver of success. If he's a good offensive mind, it won't matter that, so what, he hasn't called plays in a few years. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, he'll find Scott Linehan to do that for him. That'll work well. But Trevor Lawrence should work well, and obviously that's the direction the Jaguars are going. I mean, and I don't think there's any reason to question, why anyone would or wouldn't want to take this guy. He's been, the top of the gold standard at this position. I can remember seeing him on the, back when NFL Network did the show of the high school guys going into college, and he stood out in that group. Trent Dilfer would run that show. What did they call that? The Elite 11 or something crazy. But anyhow, this guy's been money. Is there any reason if you look at the Jaguars, Justin, the draft capital, the cap room, the incoming coaching staff giving a huge positive vibe, is there any team better set up to make a bigger rebound than the Jaguars, including the fact that they only won a single game?
Well, it's like a clean slate, right? 1-15. You're getting the best quarterback we've seen in a while. How his game translates to the NFL is to be determined. We've certainly seen our share of busts there. So they're a 4-win football team. I like Kyle used the word innovative. I mean, that's what I think the game yearns now. Some of these creative minds. I think Urban Meyer is that guy. So the pieces are in play. Like you said, they have the draft capital. They can spend, they can invest. And they're a work in progress, like many other teams who are even years in front of them, as far as I'm concerned. So it'll be interesting from a fantasy angle. There's going to be pieces, especially in DFS, that we're going to want from this Jaguars team next year. No doubt about it. So it's from football guys' standpoint, the three of us, I think they are a team. They're probably not going to win more than 4 or 5 games, is my guess. But they'll definitely be better, and it's a clean slate in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect. We'll see how Urban Meyer pans out. I mean, there are downsides there too. There are issues with him having in the past. Arthur Smith, the offense that he has created has been undeniable. It's similar to the one that Matt Ryan ran when he had his MVP season. So they got that going for him. Dan Campbell, great motivational guy, not an exciting, offensive mind or defensive mind. I think Robert Salah is the high, and Staley, I don't know what to make of that guy. Obviously he's very impressive. Had a great defense in Los Angeles with the Rams, and he has the shortest move of any of these coaches just across the stadium to his new offices in Los Angeles. But Robert Saleh just looks to me, I think the AFC East is getting an injection. Well, look, you're taking a step up anytime you get rid of Adam Gase in our estimation. I think I can speak for all of us. But you look at what Miami did getting Brian Flores. I think he's building this, a culture there. And I think that's what it takes. This guy, just watching him over the last couple of years, the unbridled enthusiasm, intensity, not to mention the high-end defense he runs. Kyle, does he look? Where do you rank him in these hires?
I would rank him after the best offensive guys. So I think I would have rather had Dable, only because I touched on it earlier. I think, and the numbers bear this out, that offense is just far more predictive year to year on who's going to be successful because it's more stable. It's just hard to sustain these great defenses. We saw, like this year, that the 49ers were not as good as they were last year because a bunch of guys got hurt, and only so much can kind of mask over that. Now, do I think he's probably the best the best defensive-minded head coach that we'll like see hired in the past few years? Yeah, probably. So if you eliminate, like I would have taken probably Bieniemy over him. If you eliminate some of what I think are the best offensive guys, certainly I think it makes a ton of sense. And if he's able to build a really good culture, like I don't think this is the way I would approach it, but you certainly can just get good offensive coordinators and have a good program as a team and say, like, yeah, someone else can handle offense. As long as we keep getting good offensive guys, we're going to have a good culture, we're going to have like good management, and things will work out. So I definitely think as far as defenses go, there was no better hire for him, and it's not even close.
Right. And you mentioned Brian Dable, and, you know, the reporting we got, Adam Schefter had reported that it looked like they were the Chargers were zeroed in on Dable, which got us all a little excited, right? We've seen the work that Dable's done and the pretty creative game planning he's come up with, like literally opponent-specific game planning to take advantage of what Josh Allen does best and bringing out the best in Josh Allen. And we kind of projected that over to what might be with Justin Herbert, but it won't. And so we'll see who the offensive coordinator is there. There are a number of coordinator jobs open, not the least of which is Seattle, where they're talking to some of these former head coaches, Anthony Lynn. Doug Peterson sounds like he'll take a year off. They're talking to, I think, who was it? Kirby Wilson, I think was the latest guy they talked to, Raiders running back coach. Guy's been around a while, so we'll see what happens in Seattle. Russ wants to cook. Pete wants to run. Well, there'll be a little bit of friction there. That'll be something worth watching. A couple of medical notes. Michael Thomas, not a huge surprise that he's likely to need his ankle repaired. The surprise is how bad it may have been. He might need multiple surgeries on the ankle and that he needed painkillers to play, could hardly practice, but he was really determined to, see out Drew Brees' what everyone expects to be his final season. Kyle, does that get him off the hook for the lack of production in your book, and you're ready to dive right back in with both feet next year?
No, it definitely doesn't get him off the hook. Like I'm not ruling him out. I'm not saying like, nope, this is unexcusable, can't draft him. It's really just a cost situation. Like, how much does he cost? If he goes the end of the second round, like, God, I would just kill to get the potential of him there. But if you don't get enough of a discount, like, yeah, he was like injury riddled this year, but also when he was with Drew Brees, his like target share numbers weren't that great anyways. And if they bring back Taysom Hill, like, how often do we expect them to pass? So I don't know. I think it's a very fluid situation. As with all of these things, my decision is not even my decision. It's a decision of what the cost is. So if he slips into, late second round, yeah, I'm jamming one of the best PPR machines we've seen in recent years. If he's like 1-2 turn because people think he's a lock to come back like he was 2 years ago, no, I probably won't have much at all of him.
Yeah, Justin, A.J. Brown had cleanup procedures on both knees, said he was playing hurt all year long, played really, really well. Seems like the knee injuries will be a non-issue, but losing Arthur Smith could be an issue. Is that a concern for you heading into drafts this summer?
Not really. Obviously, this is a better Titans offense than we've seen in the past few years. Ryan Tannehill kind of opened up the gates. You're not just relying on the run down there. But if you think that you're going to get 80, 90 receptions out of A.J. Brown, you're mistaken. He is that Mike Evans kind of high A-dot guy where it's going to be 70 receptions, 1,100 yards, and somewhat touchdown dependent in order to boost up those fantasy numbers, which he had 11 this past season. So he's going to be fine. They want balance down there in Tennessee. It makes sense. He's a stud. I mean, the bottom line, he's a stud. He's just not going to be one of these 80, 90, 95 reception wide receivers. So if you're content with 75 receptions, 1,100 yards, the touchdowns will regress. To me, he's a wide receiver too, and he's a solid one at that.
All right. There are a few other stories floating out there. Just talk of people getting paid, not paid. Lamar Jackson's in line to get a big payday. Dak Prescott, we'll still have to see how that plays out. His rehab, though, is on track, so good news there. So lots of stories. They'll unfold over the course of the offseason. We won't dig too deep into those issues, but we will dig deep into the conference championship DFS. We'll start with Justin. There are 30 quarterbacks available to you, Justin. Which ones are you playing this week?
I'm liking Jordan Love at 4K at home against the Bucs. Yeah. No, it's obviously tough. Like I said at the top of the show, you have Mahomes, you have Josh Allen, the future, and then you have bona fide Hall of Famers and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And when I look at the pricing of the four, I'm probably going to go down to Tom Brady. I mean, people are going to look at this and say, oh, you know, Green Bay weather and stuff like that. This is what Tom Brady is made for. He's built for the weather here, 30 degrees. That's what he's used to. He's been to 14 of these things now. I think the number is 14, if I'm correct, and I think that I am. He's playing his best football. So I'm going to have Tom Brady. I'm probably not going to look back. Obviously, you want some of that Russian equity in a Mahomes or Josh Allen. If I'm going to use Mahomes at Arrowhead Stadium over Josh Allen every single time. So if I'm paying up, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Again, you guys were 100% right about this kid, and he has grown on me by the week since I've been wrong, and arguably the best quarterback I've ever seen at his age. So it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. We said before the show he's going to play regardless of the toe and the odd concussion, which wasn't even his head, which was even scarier.
Yeah, it looked like a nerve issue, more like Jay Glazer talked about it after the game, like an MMA fighter who got choked out. And, it will just, it will render you immediately unconscious. You immediately wake up and you're woozy. And that seems to be the case. We'll see, but limited today, took all the snaps though. Expect him to continue progressing and be ready to play. But check your injury reports, people, at footballdiehards.com.
Makes sense, because when he was trying to get up, I'm like, wow. And then you look to see, sometimes they get nicked in the back of the head with an elbow or something and you get concussed that way, but there was really nothing there. It was actually frightening. So Mahomes, the kid's got it. He's got the goods. He's as good as we've ever seen. So Mahomes at Arrowhead, I think he can carve this Buffalo team. That game would have been a lot worse had he not gotten hurt the other day. It was just trending in that direction. So Mahomes, Tom Brady, and look, I think the Bucs are a unit right now they're playing. This is a Bucs team that could probably go to the Super Bowl. And if Tom Brady goes to the Super Bowl and for some strange reason sees Josh Allen, 45-3 in his career against the Buffalo Bills. So we could be seeing a Tom Brady Super Bowl win. I don't envision the Bills winning at Arrowhead Stadium. So tonight, Mahomes, Brady. The reality is I'll probably have a combination of all four in my DFS lineups. But in terms of interest, it's Brady. He's the cheapest. And then it's Patrick Mahomes, followed by Rodgers at Lambeau. And then a little Josh Allen. I want to see Josh Allen in a spot like this. Obviously, Arrowhead's not going to be full, although there were quite a bit of fans there the other day. 30% capacity. You look like even more. It'll be a litmus test to see what Josh Allen in his strides, how far he's come ultimately.
I'm still shocked that at a 4-game slate you were able to limit it to 4 quarterbacks. Kyle.
I am playing one quarterback in every single lineup, and that will be Patrick Mahomes. I don't really see a reason to get away from him as the best quarterback on the slate. Normally we talk about, there's a balancing act of price versus ownership versus his upside. His upside is clearly the best of the slate. He's Patrick Mahomes. I think, there's arguments that like Rodgers and Allen with, rushing for Allen and just touchdown upside for Rodgers rival him. But Vegas does expect the Kansas City offense to score more points than any other team on the slate. And just like the Bills, sort of, we see that even when they're winning, when they're losing, tied, whatever, the Kansas City Chiefs love to pass the football. Kind of makes sense when you have Patrick Mahomes. And maybe there is even a 1 or 2% discount on his ownership because people see that he's questionable leading up to the game. So if salary not really being much of a constraint, because there's not a ton of great running backs, there is all of one good tight end. I don't care what you do at defense. Because all of those things are true, salary doesn't make a ton of difference to me. I'm just going to get the best quarterback, and I'm doing that in every single lineup.
Well, at running back, as I look at the slate this week, it reminds me of tight end during the regular season. What do you like there, Kyle?
Man, I don't know. I'll probably play a mix of most players because I can, I'm pretty much just exploring every possible combination of Patrick Mahomes plus other players. I do think maybe I'll end up getting more, and this is the worst, Devin Singletary than I feel comfortable with, just because he hardly got priced up. I think he's like 4,500. And although they did not run the football at all, they ran with their running backs 9 times.
Running backs was once, once or twice?
No, they ran 9 times. It was 7 carries for Devin Singletary. It was awful. It was just abysmal. Only because I played a lot of Devin Singletary. I'm sure if you didn't play Devin Singletary, you were like, yep, that's fine. If you played John Brown, for instance, you were super cool with their outcome. But I wasn't, because I played a lot of Devin Singletary. He saw 7 of 9 running back carries in that game. He saw all of the running back targets, which I think was like 2 or 3. Market share numbers are good. I think that was it's more in the range of outcomes of the Bills because they don't run the football a lot. But for a team that wins a football game, to run the ball with your running backs less than 10 times seems quite drastic. I do think we can reasonably project this backfield to get 14 carries, probably 11 to 3 or 12 to 2 for Devin Singletary. At his price, sure, there's a lot of risk in playing Devin Singletary, but you carry very similar risks by playing, Ronald Jones, even Leonard Fournette as an underdog. Aaron Jones didn't massively outcarry Jamal Williams, and that game wasn't like a drastic blowout until the third or fourth quarter. So every running back on this slate carries risk. I'm just taking the cheapest one with Devin Singletary, is at least how I'm going to sleep at night once he gets 4 points.
So, Justin, address the new sea of mediocrity.
Yeah, I guess $6,500 Ronald Jones is where it's at, given his upside, right? But it's cloudy. We saw Jamal Williams get the football. He has a role on that offense. We see A.J. Dillon get the football as well. I still think that Aaron Jones is a lock for 15 touches. He brings upside. We've seen it for the past couple of seasons. It's really as high as anybody outside the Christian McCaffreys and the Kamaras. So it's 6,500. I think if Green Bay wants to win, they're going to have some balance. But that being said, the Bucs are stout against the run. So it's interesting. But I definitely have some Aaron Jones there. And again, like Kyle, I'll have a mixture of a lot of these guys outside of Devin Singletary because we talk every show about how the Bills, their identity is to throw the ball. Kind of sad what's happened to Devin Singletary because I know we probably a round 5 investment in leagues last season. If I'm not correct, it'll be free next year. The Bucs backfield, I'm not opposed to using Leonard Fournette and Rojo in certain lineups because it looks like there's a committee there. But Leonard Fournette tonight looks like his show going forward, involved in the passing game, 6 targets last week, 5 receptions. So we're going to take that. 21 DraftKings points, 20 the week before. Give me some Uncle Lenny. I think the Packers at times have been vulnerable to the run, and the Bucs are going to run. Tom Brady's just not going to go out there and sling it 50 times like Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm not opposed to be a little different with some Rojo, who's 4,600, and Uncle Lenny. So the majority of my lineups are going to have Aaron Jones based on his upside. I think people will be hesitant because of that Bucs defense that's playing out of their mind. And Leonard Fournette, why not? I mean, he's probably going to get us around 15, 20 points. I think the touches are going to be there. In terms of usage, I think those two right at the top are going to get both between 15 plus touches, and that's as high as it's going to get from a running back on this slate.
Kyle, you want to jump into the wide receiver core?
Yeah, so at wide receiver, I'm probably not doing anything awfully unique. I'm playing a lot of the good players. I guess the most interesting thing that you'll see in a lot of my lineups is that I'm digging deep into the pit of unknown with the Kansas City third receivers. If it's Sammy Watkins, if he's healthy, he got a limited practice day. He was running a route on 80% of Patrick Mahomes' dropbacks, and did that ever pay off? I don't think so, but that tends to be something that does pay off if you're on the field a lot with a really good quarterback. So if he's able to play, it'll be a lot of Sammy Watkins, a little bit of Mecole Hardman, who actually ran more routes than Demarcus Robinson, was something that almost never happened. I think it happened once in the stretch of Sammy Watkins missing earlier in the season. Seems like maybe now they're kind of willing to commit to him in the playoffs. I mean, I think he's incredibly talented in a way that at least can make plays. So I'll even dip deep into both him and Demarcus Robinson. If Sammy Watkins doesn't play, I'm saying I have to play one of those two guys in all of my lineups. Outside of that, I don't know. I'll probably have a lot of the runbacks as well. A lot of John Brown, Gabriel Davis, John Brown, Cole Beasley. Gabriel Davis nicked up, so if he doesn't play, maybe I even get to Isaiah McKenzie. I think maybe that's just the most interesting part of my lineups. It's just how deep I'm going into both sides. For Buffalo, it'll be McKenzie. For Kansas City, it will be probably a lot of Mecole Hardman, I'd imagine. Even if Sammy Watkins plays, I'll be over the field because I'm just going full onslaughts of this game. Not a ton of interest in the other one. Totals are similar, but I'll just take the higher total with I think the better upside fantasy options.
Makes perfect sense. Justin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Kyle. I mean, Kyle was right. He was talking about that Ramsey-Adams matchup all week, and I don't know that Adams got us there, but he kind of did. His floor is 20, and you got 21. I mean, he's one of these guys, and I think Stephon Diggs is falling into that scope where we're not going to care about the cornerback next year. We're really not. I mean, you play Stephon Diggs and you play him with certainty. you playing with confidence. So I'm going to have the most of Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams right at the top, like everybody else. I think Tyreek Hill makes a fantastic tournament play. You're going to see Trey White. I don't know that from a wide receiver angle, Tyreek Hill is Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs in terms of polish and route running, but he's certainly elite. And what makes him elite is the fact that he has Patrick Mahomes, and I think that that's the bottom line. So Diggs, Adams, for me. Obviously, I agree with Kyle. We're going to stack that game quite a bit. I mentioned Tom Brady, so I'm going to have numerous variations with the Godwins and the Evans of the world with that running back to kind of differentiate the running game to differentiate myself. And, of course, AB. As far as the Buffalo side of things, your boy, Smokey Brown, showed up. That's an additional weapon to Josh Allen's arsenal, which is frightening. Did not see much of Cole Beasley, kind of hobbled.
Yeah, quiet day.
Hobbled. But when he gets involved, like a poor man's Julian Edelman is Cole Beasley. And if he gets going with Josh Allen, we saw it a handful of times this season. 8 receptions, 9 receptions, can get in the end zone, over 100 yards, 20, 30 DraftKings points, and at 4,100. You got to look at a guy like Cole Beasley because he burned people last week, I would say a little bit. You go right back to him in a stack like this with a Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. I think Cole Beasley has that type of ceiling, which he showed, that can put us over the top. And obviously, like Kyle said, McCole Hardman, they're using him more and more. I like his upside as well. On the Green Bay side of things, is it going to be the alien lizard again, or is it going to be MVS? Kyle, we had this conversation last week with Bobby. I think he was actually touting Alan Lazard, right? Last Wednesday, I think he was touting Alan Lazard, and Lazard kind of came through, didn't he? This week he's only 4,200, but 19 DraftKings points last week, 4 receptions. Aaron Rodgers looked at him 8 times. So the thing about a 2-game slate like this, you're not just going to fire one lineup. You are going to make quite a bit of different variations, and they better be different. And the difference is you're either going to make money or not, or you can win a GPP with, I think, guys like Beasley and the McCole Hardmans of the world.
So at tight end, Justin, make the case for anybody not named Travis Kelce.
I don't know that I can. It's just another year in the sea of mediocrity. And there's Travis Kelce, and I think there's everybody else outside of. It was Darren Waller this year, and it might have been Kittle had he not been hurt. But there's Kelce where you're going to pay. And if you're going to use Patrick Mahomes, you are going to use Travis Kelce, and that's the bottom line. I don't think there's a need to get cute. If you need cap space, you go to Robert Tonyan. I don't think there's a ton of miles to feed in Green Bay. I think the rapport is clear with Tonyan and Aaron Rodgers, so we certainly like that. But it's going to be Travis Kelce. At $8K, you pay the premium, you pay that high tag, and he's going to pay it off 8 out of 10 times. So give me some Tonyan. It's a Packers offense where you look at it, the backfield's cloudy, so there's uncertainty there. But in the passing game, it's Devontae Adams. Occasionally you'll see a little MVS and Alan Lazard, who they're trying to make the two. I feel like Aaron Rodgers gets pissed off at him more often than not. And then Robert Tonyan, who over time we've seen Aaron Rodgers kind of lean on his tight end, Christ, going back to, an aging Bubba Frank. So Tonyan, Kelce, and that's I'd love to make a case for Gronk or Cameron Brate, but cannot go there at this point in time.
Kyle, could I entice you?
I could throw some darts on Dawson Knox, especially if Gabriel Davis doesn't play. Taking a decent amount of they were a team that ran a decent amount of 4 wide, and they didn't even have a full healthy core of receivers all year. John Brown was nicked up, and Cole Beasley missed games at the end, and so I think for that reason we have to expect that they run more tight end based sets. Maybe not a ton more, but if you just remove the concept of 4 wide from their playbook, half or so, because their 4th receiver is probably a pretty significant drop off. Going from, Gabriel Davis being the 4 to Isaiah McKenzie, who is good, but just he's not as good as Gabriel Davis, I would imagine. Dawson Knox at, I think he's 3K, especially because he correlates well with me thinking the Chiefs game is going to be a shootout, is really probably the only tight end outside of Kelce that I'm going to be over the field on. All
right, then. So we have 4 defenses, Kyle. Dive in.
I think Chiefs are kind of interesting, especially because I think we've seen, in a few of the crazy shootout games, you almost want turnovers, right? There are real scenarios, Pittsburgh being the operative example most recently, where Pittsburgh got there because the Browns defense played so well. Maybe give too much credit to the Browns defense, whatever. The Browns defense scored a bunch of points, and that was because Pittsburgh gave it to them and then put themselves in a scenario to really go off. I think either side of the football, if that happens in the Bills-Chiefs game, because both teams love passing the football, if one team gets down early, it probably doesn't mean the other team runs the football a lot. It just means both teams play incredibly exciting, optimal, deep passing football. If the game's going to shoot out, I think that provides an increased chance of, sack, fumble, pick six type of stuff, even if both quarterbacks are really good. It's just more, pulls at the slot machine. We saw it with, I believe it was Chiefs-Rams like 2 or 3 years ago, one of the highest scoring games I can remember. And it was on the back of two Rams defensive touchdowns and one, or maybe special teams, and one Chiefs defensive touchdown. That just speeds the game up so much. So I think on a slate where defense is mostly just random anyways, I think there's an interesting element of game theory to getting a defense in the game you're stacking.
Seems reasonable. Justin?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I stacked the brains out of that Browns-Steelers game and on the Pittsburgh side, and things worked out pretty well. And then I used the Cleveland Browns defense, which was the cheapest. So I'm going to go right back I'm going to go to the Bucs. I think that the Bills have the highest upside, but in terms of price, you take a page out of Kyle's book and spend down. They're all good units. I think the Bucs present the highest level of upside. They're playing out of their minds. We saw what they did against Lamar Jackson. I think they can do the same thing against a hobbled Patrick Mahomes. But the Bucs are also playing terrific as well. So I think the defense this week is going to be a differentiator in GPPs for certain.
Sounds reasonable enough. All right, there you have it, everybody. A mountain of DFS picks, a look at the news, and we hope you have a great and successful conference championship weekend.